What are you doing?
Filming?
Pictures of us?
Yeah.
Can I get your badge number?
0016.
Cool.
Is it shiny enough for you?
It's very shiny.
All right. Give me your driver's license, Mr. Fifth Amendment, right?
You're filming right now?
I am.
How come?
He's got the camera on. He's got the camera on me right now as we're talking.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Andrew Henderson here. Today I'm in St. Louis with Jacob Crawford and David of Copwatch, and got a couple questions for them. So what is Copwatch?
So, I think in order to talk about what Copwatch is, I think it's important to talk about what Copwatch is. And so, I'm sure everybody knows that you have the right to watch the police, and there's a lot of different groups out there watching the police. You got people going through checkpoints, people doing First Amendment tests. You got people walking up to cops when they're not doing anything and challenging them to think about what their job is and what the meaning is behind it. The one thing that I think makes Copwatch so special is that Copwatch is us looking out for us. We're looking out for our community. And so when you're Copwatching, you're going out into the streets, you're observing the police as they interact with people that are stopped. You know, it may be people that live in your neighborhood, it may be people that you don't know. But the idea is that you're going to make your presence known, that you're going to use tactics of de-escalation to try to mediate the situation. And a lot of times, I mean, the fact of the matter is that if you walk up to the police with a video camera and with a lot of love in your heart, that the police are less likely to hurt the person that they've stopped, less likely to cite the person they've stopped, less likely to continue harassing the people that they've stopped. So I would say that Copwatch, you know, while it's been around for about 25 years, like Copwatch is nothing new. That the Black Panthers, that the American Indian Movement, that any organization or person that cares about the community, you know, have been doing this for a long time. There's no beginning of it. You know, as long as there's been oppression, there's been people that are willing to take a stand against it. And so, you know, Copwatch started in 1990 in Berkeley with video cameras and people that were really concerned about what was happening in front of them to the homeless community. But I would say that Copwatch has been around for a long time. And so with that, Copwatch, you know, Copwatch is just trying to spread that legacy and continue it. We want to make sure that everybody knows their rights when they're stopped by the police. We want to make sure that everybody knows what to do when they see the police stopping somebody. And so, you know, there's no just one right way to watch the police. You know, there's a few wrong ways, but what we want to do is just spread the message that, you know, whether it's Dave and me watching the police out here like we were earlier, or whether it's somebody driving through a neighborhood they don't know and it's the cop stopping somebody, that we all have the right to watch the police. And that when you care about the person that's stopped, you can actually make a difference. And there's a lot of people that spend a lot of time fighting for police accountability, going to City Hall, going to City Council, and I encourage it. You know, I think that every which way we need to address the issues, we should do it. But one way you can keep people safe, one way you can keep people free, is to watch the police directly, to let them see what you're doing, to let them know what you're doing, to let the person stop know what you're doing. And in that way, you make the world a better place. And so that's what Copwatch is. We're dedicated to spreading the message of Copwatch. We want to support groups that want to Copwatch. And that's how I was able to meet my partner in crime, David Whitt, who I spent 15 years looking for. And you know, in August of 2014, when a young man by the name of Michael Brown was shot and killed in the street and left out for everybody to see, there was people that were already organizing to take a stand against it. And I just feel that I was very fortunate to meet them and to encourage, you know, the gospel of watching the police.
So I think to me, which is why this next thing that we started, starting to work on is first responders And what first responders is it really gets to the core of what cop watching is actually about. Is number one is you filming a police incident, and I think the main thing that we want to get across like this summer is to let people know that one, you don't have to get this video to the police. We highly recommend and really promote getting it to a lawyer, not allowing the police to see this video until after they've given an official statement. And also with us, so like I cop watch on my own, but somebody might have video recorded something at the scene, so we get dispatched to one of those locations and we try to talk to the community, and right now as we're building a rapport with different communities, they get to know who we are. It's that all these people are this and this is what they doing. Then we have more people willing to even give some sort of testimony to what they've seen, or even police misconduct that happened to them. And once we begin talking about this stuff, like I had a few times people call me right down the street, it's like, hey, the police is out here. So it also gives people, first responders, this thing that everybody is not going to be that person that gets up in the cop's face and say, what's your name, what's your badge number, what you doing here. It might just be a person that just their comfort zone was across the street, but they could call somebody that'll go and ask this cop what's going on, and they say, hey, Dave, the cops is out here, man. They got somebody jacked up on a car, I came out there and blase, whatever. So you have somebody else that comes out, and the cops, man, really pay attention to when you have a person recording them and then other people start coming out. That really changes the thing. That changes the cop being able to just single you out and attack you. They have to deal with this person on the other side of the street that's watching how you interact with this person. And cops, a lot of times they don't want to be caught being filmed. So to get the, so yeah, and like Jacob said, it's so many different ways that you can cop watch, and I think the main thing at this point, at this stage in the game, to just continue to remind people that we have this right, and that we should not try to put no title or no label on what it is and what it's supposed to look like to watch the police, and just kind of allow, whatever city, what's ever working for this city, let that work for that city. And I think that just giving people information so they can cultivate it and make it work in their city the best way it can suit their city. Because Jacob came out here and like he said, they do, he cop watches a little differently in California, in Oakland, as opposed to what I was doing. He would wait till the cop actually pull somebody over, then he'd stop and he'd document. But what I would do is, as soon as the police roll up on the scene, they could just be driving down the street. I'm pulling my camera out, see if he's gonna stop or not. At least I got him before the point he exited his vehicle. And then less likely, we've seen a lot of cases they didn't get out the car. So that's a different form of, cop watching. I don't say, I'm not going to go into Baltimore and say, hey man, you should film these cops, but I say, hey, well, this is what I do. You can use this technique or you can use this other technique. But I think that, and I will always strongly urge anybody that films the cops, it's very important that the cop knows that you're filming, and that you're not afraid that the cop knows that you're filming them. And I think that's the most important thing that needs to be understood, because a lot of times, police do things and the cop doesn't know that they're being filmed until after they had already engaged in this act. And now they're not going to stop because, they're going to figure out a way to justify it, after the fact.
Yeah, it's not to cut you off, but it's really easy to, if you were to just to videotape the police, you can get police misconduct on tape any night of the week. And that's another part about what Copwatch is we don't want to capture police misconduct on tape. We actually want to deter it from happening. And so we feel that when we walk up to the cops with cameras and that we care about the person that stopped, the police are less likely to hurt people. And it's like David said, there's no
There's no
there's
right
so
or wrong
yeah,
way.
there are some wrong ways, but there's so many right ways.
So many right ways.
And like the way I did it was different than the way Dave did it. And like with Dave, for instance, in Ferguson, they were practicing a community defense project. They basically kicked the cops out, and when all that stuff happened that everybody's seen on tape, the cops were actually not allowed in the area where Mike Brown was murdered. And when they came back in, they were aware that the community knew about their rights, that they were educated about Copwatch, that over 200 cameras had been handed out, that they were going to be monitored, and they were going to be observed by people that were aware of their rights and knew what to do when they saw police misconduct happen. And it actually changed the landscape of how police interacted with people in Campfield for a while. I don't know what it's like right now, but I know that for the year that Copwatch was there before everybody got displaced, the cops knew better than to roll up in that neighborhood and just harass people. They actually knew better than to roll in that neighborhood and get out of their cars. And they actually knew better than to even roll in that neighborhood unless somebody called and asked them to be there. And that means something. And so with We Copwatch, what we're doing right now, it's like David said, we're out here, we're promoting the first responders, because what we think is that everybody should be a cop watcher. But even more importantly is when shit hits the fan, we should all know what to do. Like, we all need to know how to deploy to an area, to support an area, to collect visual evidence, and to support a community that's just dealing with something that's so traumatic. And it's horrible that it had to happen in Ferguson. It's horrible that it's happening in St. Louis. It's horrible that it's happening where you live. But the fact of the matter is, it's happening. And we need to be prepared not only to deter police misconduct, but when it happens, to be there. And so the first responders is something that I think is something that every city needs to have. Every neighborhood should know how to cop watch, and every neighborhood should know what to do when a shooting happens. And then another thing that we're doing is we want to support Copwatch and first responders everywhere around the country. And part of We Copwatch is endless training. It's like we're constantly training people. We're training groups, individuals, anybody that wants to start a group, that wants to know what to do when they're stopped by the police, wants to start a first responders group. And so we've come up with something called Copwatch College. It sounds a little funny, but it's never too late to get an education. And so that idea is that we want everybody to understand, the history of the police. We want everybody to understand the history of the resistance against police misconduct. We want people to understand how police are trained. Like, why do they always write in their reports, "He lunged at me, I warned him 3 times, I was in fear for my safety"? Why is that every single police killing that they say the same thing? Guess what? They went to class for it. And so we want people to understand that. We want people to understand that cops are trained to fear the people that they're there to serve, And we want people to understand what their rights are when they're stopped by the police. And we want people to understand what their rights are when they're watching the police, what to document. And then when the worst case scenario happens, we want people to understand what to do when a police shooting happens, or when there's a protest and the police are tear gassing people. How do you properly document that so that you can hold the police accountable, so you can help the people that were injured, so that you can help maybe even sculpt police policy? And for me, I'm not concerned about changing the police and making a kinder police, but I do think that it's very important that we're present, and that when stuff goes wrong, whether you're cop watching or first responding, that you're documenting stuff that can be used to help people later. And so that's the thing we're doing right now. I mean, we're here, we're in St. Louis, we're watching the police in our community, we're responding to police shootings, and we're trying to educate not only our local community in the county, but the country about the rights when they're stopped by the police, when watching the police, how to respond to shootings, critical incidents. And the hope, in the end, is that we're building a stronger foundation where we can begin to have the conversation not only about what's wrong with the police, but what's wrong with ourselves, and how can we live in a world where we resolve our issues without the police, where we can find forms of justice that don't involve the criminal justice system, and where we can essentially live in a world where we don't have to deal with that stuff, and we can be a better, more responsible society. And it's like Copwatch is not the answer to everything, but to me, the difference between cop watching and everything else is that cop watching is the beginning of a world where we actually, are kinder, are gentler, where we, think about things before we react, where we, try not to perpetuate everything that we see wrong with the state, with institutionalized racism, with everything that, that's wrong with the world. We as a small community and we as a bigger community to become better. And I just encourage anybody that if you see something wrong to, have the courage and just watch the police. And, it's a very hard thing to do. It's hard to have that courage. It's hard to not be upset. It's hard not to express how upset you are. But somewhere in that, we begin to find this sense of resolution where we can actually live in a world without them. So.
Right. Where can people find out more about We Copwatch?
Well, that's a good question, because We Copwatch doesn't even exist. It's a figment of your imagination. Copwatch is something that we all need to do, and we Copwatch because we know we need to. We Copwatch because we know that our children need to have a future. And so as far as, how to find We Copwatch, I guess you can go to our webpage, you can go to our Facebook, but if you really want to know about We Copwatch, you should know about Copwatch. And I would suggest that you go on YouTube and go to These Streets Are Watching. That's a Know Your Rights training video that I made in 2004, and it deals with your rights when stopped by the police. It deals with your rights when watching the police. It's technically the first in the streets, non-dramatized Know Your Rights video. So I think it's important. It's a little bit outdated. If you want to know more about your rights and you want to know more about how to spread this message, we hope to have Copwatch College up online pretty soon, where you can learn about your rights and you can go through these educational classes of sorts. But as far as We Copwatch, you can contact us at wecopwatch@gmail.com. We're a very small group. We may have a big roar, but the fact of the matter is that our roar has to do with the fact that there's so many people out there doing this, and that we're all holding hands together, and that's why we call ourselves We Copwatch. So wecopwatch@gmail.com. Go to the website wecopwatch.org.
And also the first responders. You can go to St. Louis First Responders on Facebook, and you can stay updated on the first responders action out here in St. Louis.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys very much for your time, and I appreciate you both taking me out on the streets of St. Louis and allowing me to Copwatch with you and teaching me new tactics.
We've been waiting to meet you, so we're happy that you've come our way.
Next time you have to stay a little longer.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
If I end up on YouTube, I'm going to be upset.